My name is Jody, and I just retired from my super important yet super boring corporate job where I explain complex things to the C-suite executives in 5 minutes or less to get them to actually make decisions and do something. I will now take these corporate superpowers and do deep dives into current events and help to answer the obvious questions. And this is my podcast. Greetings, fellow truth seekers. Today I'm literally tearing this subject from the headlines, and I want to ask the obvious question. Is our court system about justice or just about winning? 3 cases in the last month or so have all these issues around them, and I wanted to talk about it as well as find out what your opinion is too. No, this is not about guilt or innocence of the defendant. It's about what's actually happening and what's happening in prosecuting these cases. First up is the easy one, the Alec Baldwin Rust trial. I followed this attempt for justice for cinematographer Helena Hutchinson, who died because the dim-witted armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed not only allowed live bullets on a set, but put them in a gun, which was handed to elitist snob turned soon-to-be reality star Alec Baldwin, who did not follow proper gun safety protocols and shot the director and cinematographer during a blocking session. Gutierrez-Reed was found guilty, and Carrie Morrissey, defense attorney turned special prosecutor, had the tenaciousness of a pit bull going for a hot dog cart, and the only thing missing was her twirling mustache, mostly because she didn't have one. She ran over the defense attorney, the judge, and just about anyone in her way on her pursuit of justice for Helena. It also didn't hurt that Hannah Gutierrez-Reed spent her entire time in jail while awaiting sentencing, worried about her modeling career, and blaming the media for making her look bad. Prince Harry, is that you helping her? So as we are getting ready to get going on the second trial, this time with the sniveling oldest Baldwin, I think it's the oldest, and his fancy schmancy New York attorneys, the trial took a wrong turn in Albuquerque. Gen Xers, you'll get that reference. And soon we had a trial within a trial when evidence was not handed to the defense because law enforcement leads decided it wasn't material. I'm going to stop this to give you one of my favorite things I tell people I mentor. If you're going to burn a bridge, make sure you burn all the bodies too. Remember when I said Carrie Morrissey was a pit bull? Well, Karma is also a biatch, and Karma also has an incredible sense of humor. So when the lead detective and the crime scene tech got caught, they decided to add Carrie to their Thelma and Louise virtual car over the cliff ride, while she also decided to do what every attorney tells their clients not to do, get up and give testimony. Oh, and how bad was this? Her co-prosecutor quit in the middle of the trial, and actually literally in the middle of the argument. She was like, we need to drop this, but old Carrie wanted to get Corporal Alexandria Hancock and Marissa Popple, and she wanted it out in the public, and she sure did. To be fair, the judge and the defense attorney were both like, this is not so smart. You sure you want to do this? But she was so pissed at Thelma and Louise, she took herself out. While on one hand it was enjoyable to watch her torch their careers, she herself had to stop, drop, and roll, and the jury is still out if her career is over and out. And then we have Judge Summer. You know, the judge she ran over 565 million times in the first case. Well, she is the same judge, and she gave us a masterclass on ripping to shreds an entire case and threw it out. Here's the thing. I can't stand Alec Baldwin. I don't even like his movies. I hated Beetlejuice. But I cannot stand injustice more, and while Helena Hutchinson will not get justice she deserves, it was the right thing to do. Because the investigators did not provide all of the discovery evidence as they should. It was wrong, and because of all of their machinations and lying and snark, Judge Summers was like, we're just going to stop. And no, those fancy schmancy New York attorneys will be upping their rates when in truth the prosecution self-imploded. But a huge shout out to Luke Nikas, who literally should be Baldwin's hero, because he was the one that connected the dots for Judge Summers, while flashier and prettier Alex Sparrow got in some good jabs. My only real disappointment, other than for Helena's family, which for that it's so horrific, is missing out on Spiro Morrissey catfights, which were just heating up. And Alex is not out of hot water yet. Those pesky civil suits are still working its way through. Now here is the flip side, the Karen Read case. And if you stay listening to my podcast, there will be a lot around this case because, like most of the shows on Bravo, the best stuff is outside of the court. Anyways, if you've been under a rock, here's a synopsis. Karen Read is charged with second-degree murder of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, who was found near death on the lawn of another Boston cop on January 29th, 2022. Karen said she dropped John off to make sure they were really invited to an after party. And when he didn't come out, she got pissed and left. And when I say she got pissed, oh yeah, she got pissed. She went back to his house because his niece was there. And I forgot to say, he is the custodian for his niece and nephew whose parents both died tragically. The whole story is just absolutely awful. Anyway, she got home, she left him some nasty voicemails, fell asleep, and woke up around 5 in the morning in a panic. Jumped in a car in a snowstorm, hit his car with her car, called some people who turned out not to like her too much to help find him, found him on the lawn, and then went into a complete meltdown. And then before you can say, what was the band playing at the waterfall? Oh yeah, you get that. If you know, you know. He was arrested by the worst cop since Mike Furman took the stand in OJ, Michael Proctor. The prosecution says, and this is so hard to understand, but anyway, that she dropped him off, and then she started to drive away, and then she got mad, or they were in a fight, and then she drove forward and then drove backwards 60 feet down a curved road at 12:30 at night in the snow at 24.2 miles an hour. Cue Back to the Future. And then her taillight hit his arm, and somehow it threw him up in the air. He bounced his head on a curb, landed 30 feet away, and then just laid there to die. And the other thing that's really interesting in that is that 10 people or so that were at the party left after this happened, and nobody saw a 6'2" dude laying on the lawn. I kid you not. That's their actual real story. I know it doesn't sound so entertainment, but this cast of character includes red Solo cups, groceries bags for evidence, the infamous Canton brainworm, thank you Runkle of the Bailey for that one, where witnesses' memories spontaneously combust when the defense stands up. We have butt dials, we have rehoming of dogs, phones, careers, we have phones that disappear right before orders demanding that they be held, 496,652 witnesses telling us if Jen McCabe really did Google how's long to die in cold. Then you got to go outside, and this is where it gets even better. You have the free Karen Read people, a blogger named Turtle Boy, hundreds of people in pink shirts, a dude that lives in an attic, a guy who calls himself a towel. I cannot wait for the 589,000 docuseries that will show up all over in streamings of this. It's just the gift that keeps on giving. Okay, so back to the issue. So the judge told us how smart the jury was. I mean, we were told they were smart and wrote the bestest of best notes that she's ever seen. By the way, everybody calls her Auntie Bev, and I will too, just so that, you know, it just fits with everything. And again, don't worry, I'm going to have more podcasts, and I'm going to break all these people down. It's great. So anyway, Auntie Bev told them to not come back until they were unanimous on all 3 of the charges. So the smartest jury in the history of the world seems to have agreed on not guilty on 2 charges, but were hung on 1. So had this been a jury with like C students, they probably would have been like, oh, hey, Auntie Bev, we're stuck on 1. But this is the super smartest jury in the bestest world. And instead they wrote this incredibly detailed note where they tried super hard, but before you can say where, if any place, can I sit at a high top, Auntie Bev called a mistrial before anyone could say anything. Well, a few days later, some of the juries were like, well, anybody know that, you know, we were not guilty on 2 of the 3 charges? And so they either reached out to David Yannetti, and this is really weird because everybody that reached out to David Yannetti, one of the defense attorneys, it was like through a friend of a friend. I guess they were afraid of him. I don't know. But then a couple other jurors reached out to co-counsel and my pretend lawyer boyfriend, Alan Jackson. Yes, I'm married and he's married too, and it's not real. So in my world, he's my boyfriend. Anyway, so Alan talked to at least 2 jurors, and they said the same story that was told to David, that they found her not guilty on 2 of the 3 charges. And so you ask, well, did anybody reach out to like the DA? Well, we know at least one did because they talked to a journalist about it, and they tried to call him, but guess what? Lally wouldn't take the call. Yeah, ADA Adam Lally decided that he was too busy looking for his adverbs. Anybody that had Schoolhouse Rock, I want that to be stuck in your head, Lally and his adverbs. Anyway, in their motion, they filed and said, no, I can't hear you, go away, we're just going to retry it. Okay, so now Karen Read has to spend more money, and we figure she spent at least $1 million so far on her team. And she also had to hire yet another attorney to handle this, as her two attorneys are witnesses. Now, here's where it gets sketchy. And yes, that's pretty funny. After all this, now I'm saying it's sketchy. This kind of stuff doesn't usually happen. Usually a jury will mention that they have a partial verdict, or the judge will ask, or will give the defense or prosecution a chance to ask. But this time the judge, Auntie Bev, did not ask the jury, and everybody was so smart that nobody asked the obvious question. Haha, that's good. Did you agree on anything? So, now we're sitting here after 10 long weeks of Lally and his what, if any, or who, if any questions, including my personal favorite, who, if anyone, was driving the ambulance? Was it a Tesla prototype, Lally, that you got from Elon? Anyway, the jurors saying that they found her not guilty, but because Auntie Bev said, don't come back until you're unanimous on all accounts, and they were so smart, now we have something that our founding fathers never seen. Is this double jeopardy or not? So if we had a prosecutor like Erlinda Johnson and a judge like Judge Summers, they would probably all get in a room and they'd have a talk, and the DA would drop the 2 charges and move forward on the 1 charge that they were hung on. But kids, this is Massachusetts and Norfolk County, and Lally spent more time saying the McAlberts did not kill John O'Keefe, who was rarely mentioned in his own trial, than proving Karen Read did it. Did I mention that the FBI actually jumped in and was like, here's some documents proving that the stuff with her car didn't happen, and the prosecution was like, we don't need facts or proof or physics. We're just going to go with, our idea where the flex capacitor made him fly 30 feet in the air. Anyway, so, and besides, they hate David Unetti, as proven in testimony by the lead detective, who said he hated him, by the way, under oath, and Alan Jackson, who's a slick attorney from Los Angeles. The only thing that would be better is if we added Spiro to this, and then, their heads would explode. Anyway, they have a bullseye on Karen, and they're not going to let that ego go. Screw justice, we're going to win. And by the way, we hate Turtle Boy. So, anyway, our final case just got over. Ashley Benefield. She was convicted of manslaughter, where she says her estranged husband was going to kill her and she shot him. Now, the dude was not someone I would ever want near me, and he admitted to punching their dog so hard it was knocked unconscious, threw their cat multiple times, including down the stairs, shot a gun into the ceiling, and threw a loaded gun at her. Now, you can believe her or not, but I will say this. The prosecuting attorneys seemed right out of Cinderella. They were like those 2 mean stepsisters. They were attacking this woman, and they honestly, I think, set back domestic violence victims before Farrah burnt the bed. But that's not really the point. The point is that this is Florida, where every Tom, Dick, or Bubba can shoot you, but a 90-pound woman versus a trained martial artist is not to be believed. But more than that, the jury of her peers were older, like 60 to 80 per the media, and at least one of them had somewhere to go on Wednesday. Despite having 3 alternates and it going to the jury on Tuesday afternoon, they had a long way to go and a short time to get there. So they released the alternates. So think about it. It's 9 p.m. on Tuesday, and the blue hairs are way past their bedtime, and they're like, Judge, you know what? We're deadlocked. The judge says, well, come back tomorrow. And they're like, well, Agnes said, and I'm making up this name. I have no idea what these people's names are. Agnes has got somewhere to go tomorrow, so we really need to wrap this up. So what did they do? They came back 20 minutes later, and they found her guilty of the lesser included charge. So my question is it because they thought she was guilty, or they just wanted to get home? And the defense attorney, while they were waiting for the jury to come back, was talking to the judge and was like, hey, I think we have a problem because this one juror wants to, have somewhere to go tomorrow. And what the judge says is, well, you should have said something. And I'm sitting there thinking, again, kind of like Auntie Bev, and I really like this judge, so I'm not picking on him that much, but why didn't you just switch this juror so we didn't have this timeline? Because now we don't know. Did they actually come up with this verdict because this is what they believed, or is it because it was past bedtime? We're never going to know at this point. I remember my old con law classes being told that in the good old days, they would leave jurors in a room with no food or water or candles But then they decided that was too mean, so the judge would have them ride in his wagon as he rode the circuit until they came up with a verdict. In this case, we had bedtime and appointments, so we find her guilty and she gets a minimum of 15 years. Now, maybe they would have gotten there anyways, but why did the judge release the alternates? Wouldn't it have made sense to, swap one of them out and give them the case? Especially because, they got the case Tuesday afternoon, knowing Agnes had a trip to see the ice capades at the Villages the next night. Of course, the two prosecutors don't care, but was that really justice? To me, justice is actually finding the truth. Justice is about making sure that you did everything right so we only litigate this one time. Not just for the people on trial, but the victims and the family of victims, because they're going to be reliving this for weeks, if not years, as this continues to go through all of the court system. And to me, that is just a waste of time, but it's also just really painful for these people. And I just don't understand why we can't just take a moment and do the right thing the first time. So my answer to the question of, is this about justice or just winning, is that in my opinion, it should be about justice. And the way we fix that is that we need more Erlinda Johnsons and Judge Summers in our life. And that's my truth.